Good morning, Gardenia! Now, one of the fun things that I get to do here is going to town to check my P.O. box because I live down 3 miles of private dirt road and we don't get mail out here. We don't get FedEx or UPS out here either. So I went into town to check the mail the other day, and someone who used to live here gets their mail here still, and I'm not going to say who, but they got a check in the mail from the IRS. And it reminded me of this story from the Wall Street Journal I just seen. A letter sealed for centuries has been read without even opening it. Now, don't worry. I will bring this all together and all in line with the theme of today's show, a strange time for money. So, a letter sealed for centuries has been read without even opening it. Virtual unfolding technique used to read a letter-locked 17th century missive could also be used in healthcare and engineering. I almost want to save this story for a Friday show. What good news that we're able to do this. Oh my gosh, I mean, this is so cool. This is really cool. Using computer algorithms and an X-ray scanner designed for dental research, an international team of researchers has unlocked the secrets of a tightly folded letter sealed since 1967 without opening it. What effort led to this? The virtual unfolding of the letter, the culmination of a 4-year project described in a paper published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications, points to a new line of historical research into the centuries-old practice of letter locking. That's a term used to describe the use of origami-like folds to hide the content of letters before envelopes came into wide use in the mid-1800s. Now, this letter that I got for my friend in our P.O. box for Gardini here the other day was a letter from the IRS. It looked like a check. So I wanted to tell my friend, hey, you got a check from the IRS, but I thought for a second, hey, it'd be really nice to know how much this check is for because it's the IRS. Sometimes they send you a check for 2 cents and you go, fuck this. It's not even worth opening the letter or clicking through to deposit this or just whatever. So before I called my friend to say, hey, I got a check for you. You want me to come bring it by? I thought, you know what, let's check if we can see how. I mean, this is an IRS letter. It's in a security envelope. I don't have a 4-year effort. I don't have a 4-year project. I don't have an X-ray scanner designed for dental research, and who knows what government grants backing up my work to decode this message from the IRS. So I took her letter and I held it up to the light in the post office. And through the security envelope, I was able to see that it was a check for $1,200. Just like that. Just like that. And even there, I started to think, $1,200. What is the average value of an hour of human labor in the United States today? And I don't mean like what do you get paid, like actual value. Think about like on the street, and I somewhere between $10 and $20, right, for an hour of labor, just unskilled labor. I mean, let's think. Let's be generous. Call it $20. What's that $1,200 check worth? 60 hours. 60 hours of somebody's time. The IRS says, "Oh, you can have this." Obviously, I'm not going to discuss the circumstances of this check. I don't know if it was a refund or a kickback or a stimulus or a PPP loan. Who knows what it was? Doesn't matter. But stimulus checks, even. I mean, my first one went to my bank account. My second one went to a bank account I had that had been closed for years and then got kicked back from that bank to the IRS and then came to me as a paper check. Okay. Now, even a $600 stimulus check, right? Okay, that's 30 hours and honestly, with this show, there are times that I mean, it's what's the value of my time? Well, when I'm here chopping wood for myself, if you take out the exercise and nature connection and mental health meditation value, what's the actual value of my labor? Probably more like $10 an hour. But how does this change the equation? Why is this a strange time for money now? Because money, and I as a libertarian, I mean, I believe in freedom, and when you believe in freedom as a libertarian does, you generally take it upon yourself to stand up to all the violations of freedom because they are injustices. And why, as a libertarian, am I so obsessed with economics and looking at things through an economic lens? It's not because I want to get rich. If you're watching Adam versus the Man like it's some kind of investment advice show, change the channel. This is about living well and being rich overall, not just financially, because even now, money-wise, what is money? A claim to value, right? And as we transition from fiat paper currency to digital cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, it seems that we've entered a new era, and it's not because of that, but that is possible because government money has so affected our mentalities that it is holding us back in incalculable ways. Now let's look at it just from the perspective of my friend there who just got a $1,200 check in the mail from the IRS worth 60 hours of her time. And actually, I'd say she's the same as me as an entrepreneur, someone whose time can go from being worth, hundreds of dollars an hour all the way down to $10 an hour, depending on where it's being applied. But 60 hours of her time in this $1,200 check, let's say, what's the motivation? What's the incentive for her to work? Or to do anything that you don't want to do for that matter? Because this is what it really comes down to. If you stop and you look at the monetary system long enough, you see the injustices of fiat currency, and you have to ask yourself, what's real value? Because it's not something that can be enumerated or even counted in dollars and cents or any other fiat currency. And I would say that we should have come to this point a long time ago of, you don't do anything you don't want to do. That you have that economic freedom, free from need, free from want, free from wondering where your next meal is going to come from. And in terms of our technological capacity, our economic capacity, our understanding of agriculture, construction, energy, water, things like that, right? We have long past the point where we have been hypothetically capable of taking care of every man, woman, and child on this planet several times over for meeting all of their basic needs of food, water, clothing, shelter, even energy, electricity, internet connection, data, healthcare. Yeah. And our current system of money has got us fighting over stuff, fighting over money, rather than creating new things. Now, first, stepping back, before the fighting over bullshit part, there came a point in human history where we had that capacity, where if we just wanted to say, this is all we're going to do, we're going to make sure that everybody's taken care of, we're going to make sure that nobody has to work to live. And this is not socialism. This is the product of capitalism. We forget that socialism or communism or whatever other collectivism that is trying to get some material gain, it's really the same thing in capitalism. Socialists say, we want everybody to have healthcare. We want universal healthcare. Well, capitalists say, we want everybody to have better healthcare. Socialists say we don't want anybody to go to bed hungry. Capitalists say we want everybody to have a personal nutritionist. Like it's not that we don't want those things, it's that we have a better way of getting them. And the history of socialism and totalitarianism of the last 100 years would show that we have been robbed of this potential state of leisure that is the product of human history, that we have gotten to this point that our ancestors have worked so hard, have created so much. I mean, if your parents build a house and instead of you getting to live in it, the government takes it away as part of the inheritance tax, well, now you have to worry about paying rent or building your own or buying a house. It's like you have to start over with every generation when governments through fiat currencies are able to steal so much. Now, to the fighting. First, there's the misallocation of labor resources. And this pisses me off as a student of economics, right? Because like, oh, look, it's all of this value that could be created is being destroyed, is going to things that don't have. But let me try to put this in like simpler terms for that will piss you off too, even if you haven't studied economics as I have, right? So I could look at that situation where my friend, 60 hours worth of labor in a single check from the IRS, just like that. It makes sense, and I for her or for anyone else for that matter, to spend a certain amount of time with your hand out. Because the government, in order for the government right now to maintain its credibility, to keep its general racket of protecting the fiat currency, central bank racket, all that going, as just pass out money. Let's say you have a regular job, type job, and you go out and you I don't know, you wait tables or you dig ditches or you hang drywall, and you get paid. Let's say even after taxes, because we always say what's the value of human labor? It's not what your number is officially on the payroll. It's what your take home is, and it's. I can't say this enough, but for the average American, it's half. You were working for government half the year. You might see 20-30% taken out of your paycheck, but you add in all the fees, fines, hidden costs of government, it's half. You're working for government half the year. The actual value of your labor that you get to claim for yourself is half what they say it is on paper. That should be bothersome, right? But let's say you're making good money. Let's say you got one of those regular jobs. You got a decent career. You got a few promotions under your belt at your work, and now you're taking home $20 an hour, right? After all the taxes, you got a job that pays you $40 an hour on paper, let's say. And of course, not only do you have to subtract what are legitimate costs of overhead of getting to that job, but if you drive to work, you pay gas tax, you pay vehicle registration, you pay for your driver's license. You're paying off government for all these things that you have a right to do. These are not legitimately incurred costs of you doing business. But let's say you're taking home $20 an hour. Good for you. Good for you. And let's say I don't know. Let's say you're doing something kind of important to people. Let's say you're a nurse. Let's say you're a nurse in a hospital, even. Maybe a clinic. I don't know. I could think of something unimportant that would still make my point, but I'm trying to make this personal for you, right? If you're that nurse and you're getting paid $20 an hour, $40 an hour on paper, $20 an hour take home, in an 8-hour shift, that's $160 take home, right? Hey, good job. But what if, with all of your busy life, you can't find time to fill out that government form to get that $600 check, that $1,400 check? What if you have to rearrange your life a little bit? What if you have to what if it's not as easy as, well, I just fill out this form online and then the money appears? Well, you have to call the IRS. Well, you had to call your bank. Well, in those times, in a sense, your labor is worth a lot more. What government has done is created this warped incentive where if you spend an hour doing stuff that creates value, you get $20. If you spend an hour kissing government ass and talking to bureaucrats and filling out forms online, you might make $1,200 an hour. So wouldn't it make sense would you blame that nurse who, maybe is a single mom struggling to take care of her kids? She's doing all right. She's making that money as a nurse and she's doing okay, but now one of her kids has some extra expense with their education. Do you really think you could blame her for taking a day off work, for calling in sick? To say, what, I gotta stay home. I gotta fill out this form. I gotta hunt this government money. I gotta get paid. And so she calls in sick, and now there's one less nurse on staff in the hospital that day because there wasn't anybody to cover for her. And maybe somebody dies because they didn't have the right attention at the right moment. Maybe she could have saved a life by calling in some medication if someone's health was failing or experiencing an emergency. Or maybe if it's not that dramatic, maybe it was you and you were in there for an accident and you're recovering from major surgery, and if that nurse is there to take care of you and help you, then you're going to be in a lot less pain. But no, sorry. She had to take care of her kids instead. Why? Because she was chasing that government money. Now to the fighting part of the fighting over it, how many hours do we spend discussing this politically? Once because we've accepted this false premise, and as a libertarian, I really want to get to the heart of the matter. I don't want to strike the branches of the tree of evil. I want to strike the root. We have accepted this premise that it's okay for government to steal from all of us to give back to some of us, or most of us, or all of us, or to steal from the rich to give to the poor because the government is such a Robin Hood. No, it's actually the other way around. As we see, what is the actual effect of government? To steal from the poor to give to the rich. And the fact is that the rich, what makes you rich? Is that you have money, you have wealth? It's really more about power, right? In order to maintain their power over the rest of society, they would hold us all back. They would redirect that value-creating labor effort to fighting over money and filling out government forms and kissing bureaucrat butt. It's a strange time for money. Money, as we know, as we study in economics, is a claim to value. And we have come today, under the Federal Reserve System, under the fiat currencies of the world, the greatest system of manipulating that value, of taking it away from the people, the hands of the many, to put in the hands of the few. And so it's a very strange time. And I don't want to say like, oh, it's easy to get rich, but no, it is relatively easy to get taken care of. You want to get on welfare, you want to get on disability, you want to put your time in and fill out the forms and see everything you're entitled to. Or for me as a veteran, man, I haven't even explored half the shit I'm supposed to be entitled to as a disabled combat vet. How many home loans and education loans and grants and special awards am I entitled to as a veteran? No, because I don't want to do that. Yes, I want more money. I want to be able to pay the staff that makes this show possible every day. I want to build out my homestead a little faster than I'm building it out right now. I want to hire people. I want help here. I want savings. I want enough silver stacked to know that if I have a kid that they'll be okay. And it's a strange time for money, because if you want money, you don't think about how do I create value. You think about, how do I get money? How do I manipulate the system? How do I create something that the system will allow me to use to put more money in my own hands, that it really doesn't matter because the government can take that away anyway. And so how do you respond to this? I don't know. I know for me, I don't want to be a beggar. I don't want to spend my life with my hand out asking for government money. I want to live. I'm confident in who I am, confident in my abilities, confident in my ability to create shelter and to feed myself and keep this show going with or without any help. But what do you think about, like, even the producers club behind the show that makes the show possible? Give me $10 a month and you can hang out with us backstage and help make the show happen, right? It's like Huckleberry Finn tricked you into whitewashing offense. But that's not it, is it? You're gonna have to separate these things. Being a strange time for money means it's a strange time for value, which means it's a strange time for people. How do you find the good life in this world? How do you find fulfillment? Well, at least I know that first, you have to understand money for what it is. And then you have to understand how it's being misused and abused today. Who has money? The people government want to have money. Not the people who deserve it. Not the people who have earned it. And I'm not here to pretend like we need a fair world, but when you see such a singular force driving such injustice and such unfairness, it's kind of hard not to point that out. It's kind of hard not to notice. So be rich in love and understanding. Be comfortable in your material wealth. Do not let them destroy the value of your time by saying that it's most valuable when filling out government forms. But go ahead and fill them out. Don't let me say don't get your share. Of course not. Get it. In fact, we have an obligation. And in many ways, I suppose you could say I've fallen short of mine. But to anybody listening, I would encourage you, not only do you have an obligation to not give an evil system that hurts people money, but if you have a peaceful way of taking money away from that violent system, I might even say that you have a moral obligation to do it. It's such a strange time for money that if you don't put your hand out, if you don't beg the government for your piece of the pie, that money is going to be used to either hurt people or pay off the super class. Let's not make it easy for them. It's a strange time for money. And part of it is because crypto is coming in. Awareness is coming in. Wisdom is finally entering the equation. And the premises of this whole system are failing. And that's something we can all look forward to. And if you have any extra money sitting around today, you want to turn it into something good, we got to start today's show with a GoFundMe announcement. We're not doing any promos. You want to support the show? AdamVersusTheMan.com. But I want you to think about, what you do with your money then. You are given this strange power to direct value. I covered this story a few months ago, I think. No, it was a few years ago. Money can buy happiness. The thing that most people don't get about that is that it only works if you spend it on other people. So the GoFundMe is a new smile for James Vaughn. Yes, created by Timothy Paul Dobos. Finally, and I almost feel, negligent as James' friend, with him as our co-host for the show, longtime friend of Gardini as well, for someone having beat me to this. But yeah, and this is a crazy story. A lot of people look at Jim and judge him for his grill. 10 years ago, so here's the story from Tim Dobos. 10 years ago, my friend James and his 8-year-old daughter were playing badminton with some friends. Simultaneously, the birdie landed on the ground and James bent over to pick it up. James' daughter swung her racket to try to hit it off the ground, accidentally hitting James directly in the front teeth. Immediately, James' 4 front teeth were cracked right at the gum line. Oh! James immediately went to the emergency dentist. He had to have them surgically removed. Insurance would not cover new teeth because that's so-called cosmetic, or that's a so-called cosmetic issue. It was not considered to be a medical necessity. Because it's been so long without those key front teeth, it has caused James' remaining teeth to move and decay. He has been told that he now needs a full set of implants if he ever wants a natural smile again. So here's the crazy shit, and goddamn it, this pisses me off. Removing James' remaining teeth and implanting new ones will cost just over $20,000, according to the quotes that Jim has received. Now, this is definitely an attainable goal for our audience. I think y'all want to see Jim with a fresh grill here, doing the show every day. But it really does piss me off. That's $20,000. How much of that is extra taxes and medical overhead bullshit borne by the dental industry? Yeah. And then passed on to we the people in every way. $20,000, and Jim gets a new grill. I say we do it. So if you're watching the show right now, it's gofundme.com. If you want this link, someone's going to put it in the notes. Just this one. Because the rest of the links for today's show, we got a big grab bag, we got a great guest, are at t.me/Adam versus the man in our Telegram channel. So please check that out. Get the links there. But GoFundMe.com, a new smile for James Vaughn. You probably find it from the title. Link will be in the description wherever we are. Now, for your money, how am I going to ask you to give up your hard-earned money? Don't give us your hard-earned money. Give us your government money. You know that time you got $1,200 for filling out a form on the internet and the government just sent you that check in the mail? Time to take that stolen money and put it to good use. I can't wait to see Jim Freedom with a new grill on the show, and I have no doubt that we can make this happen. So today, in fact, all this week, and the rest of this week, we will be giving away membership in the Producers Club to the daily top donor for the new smile for James Vaughn GoFundMe. And I know he's probably too embarrassed to come on the screen right now, but let's get Common Jim Freedom up here anyway. CJ, you can control this shit. If he doesn't want, he's going to have to turn off the camera if he wants to avoid the show today. All right. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Comment Jim Freedom. It's good to see you this morning, brother.
It's good to see you. I appreciate that, man. I'm speechless over here. I'm a little, I don't know. There might be some kind of embarrassment in there, but it's a low percentage. I'm mostly just overwhelmed with positive love, man. I can't believe I can't believe the guy even did it. I don't know this guy personally. He's just a member of the Freedom family, and he got to talking to me, and I was just telling him my story, and then all of a sudden he reaches out to me and says, "Hey, look, I did this for you." I was like,
yeah,
that's I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I'm speechless about it. I do appreciate it.
Well, let's see what we can do with this. And man, I've had I've been very lucky with my dental situation because I've had bad teeth since I was a kid, and this is a silly thing to complain about, but like my jaw doesn't line up right. I'm trying to save up for send away of Invisalign, And Jim's sitting over there like, yeah, right. Okay. But even for me, like just maintaining your teeth, we should have a sponsor for this who's doing some kind of like new dental insurance plan. But man, how much time, like this, again, the economic analysis here. I mean, how much time have I spent? What about dish cavity? I got fucking this problem. Oh, there's this thing now. Oh, there's a chunk missing here. And going, oh man, I don't have $300 right now. Hey, all right, UNT rolled, got us the next donation. But like, how much time have people wasted worrying about dental shit just because they can't afford it and it's overpriced because of government? And I know it's like, I don't mean to say, hey, all of our dental problems are because of government. No, but once we got the ability to fix dental problems the way we think of them today, uh, then you can blame government for holding back our ability to employ those technologies fully to alleviate human suffering. And I mean, just so much human suffering is around dental problems.
Yeah.
Like, and Jim, I don't mean to make this too personal for you, but 10 years ago, you had this accident. How many hours over 10 years have you spent thinking about your teeth being fucked up?
Oh, Jesus. Couldn't even tell you. Probably half of it at least.
I mean, and now here's what should piss people off, right? Not only did I mean, even 10 years ago, it's not like any of the shit was fundamentally different in our world. 10 years ago, this happened to Jim, and as a regular working dude, all of a sudden, if it's not covered by insurance, and actually he had insurance. I mean, that's what's fucked up about this, right? Well, it's cosmetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't eat. Well, it's cosmetic. Oh, go fuck yourself. Really? Like, and it's not Jim can't eat without his four front teeth, but it's led to the obvious other functional issues with the rest of the teeth involved here. And if we just had if it wasn't for government over the last 10 years, how much more could Jim have done for the world? And that's just one example. But like every asshole American sitting there with a cavity going, fuck, I'm gonna have to wait till next month to pay for this. Every incident, I'm thinking, how many road rage incidents is this contributed to? Unnecessarily postponed dental work leads to road rage, leads to death. I mean, it's like, but it's like, yeah, we figured out how to take care of teeth, and then we fucked it up so bad. Like how. And I mean, it's almost funny to complain about teeth like separately from the rest of healthcare, but pretty much everything I'm saying applies there too.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell it's obvious that like here in America, our system and our government and half of the cost is bullshit that shouldn't exist because we can go to a place like Mexico. Like plenty of people in the comments are pointing out that it's cheaper to get the work done in Mexico. And I've thought about that. The other thing is, from what I've heard, I haven't actually been there. Obviously, I haven't been able to go down there to check and let them look at it and to give me a quote like I have here when I got those high quotes. By the way, the first like 3 or 4 years ago, I started looking into it, and a friend of mine who just got his not just, it was a while for him, but he got a full set of top and bottom teeth of implants, and it costed him $40,000. And he's like, I mean, the guy takes payments or whatever, but I did my own research and I found a place that would do it for closer to 20,000. You know what I mean? So I was like, that's.
By the way, for something like this,
I haven't actually gotten any quotes from Mexico, but from what some people have told me that claim to know better, they say I could get it done for about half, like 10,000 would get me, because there's cost in removing everything that I have. I have broken teeth because of through my childhood, I've gotten root canals and fillings and stuff, and those have fallen out. You know what I mean? And no insurance can't get it replaced, or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
about going internationally first, like I've gone to Mexico and had dental work done there a couple times, mixed results, like 50, like I don't know. I could complain about the dental work I've had in the United States too, right? How many times have I had a filling taken care of altogether in my life? Maybe 30 times, maybe, I don't know, 20. It sounds like a lot. Maybe 20 times altogether in my life. And I've had about, 6 of them done in Mexico. And I've had a couple of those fail, but then I've had a few of the ones done in the US fail too. So, but I would say, for something like this, like look at Thailand. And I hope this thing is set up so that you can keep keep the money even if we don't get to the goal here, because I want you to be able to get whatever you can for dental care out of this, even, excuse me, if we don't quite make it to 20 grand. But how much does it cost to fly to Thailand and stay in a hotel for a week and fly back, right? If it's $2,000, but you save $10,000 on the work, it's worth doing it. And Mexico, you think of because it's a cheap alternative right there handy, but it is, you still have to do your research and make sure that you've really got a place that's got good reviews and is high quality, because you might go and I say this is a little word of warning. You can't just go, oh well, it's $400 for this filling in the United States. It's $200 in Mexico. Well, I'm going to drive across the border and go to Mexico. Well, what if the failure rate because of the quality then is that much higher and you have to go back? You still got to do your research and make sure that you're finding a reliable place, right?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. If I was gonna go do that and I had the money to actually do it, yeah, I would definitely do my research. I'd ask plenty of people. I'd, get referrals. I'd do what I could. My other question about going international is I'm not so sure. Well, I know for a fact at this moment I don't have government. Well, I guess I do have government permission to leave, but I don't have government permission to come back from out of country. I don't have a visa or nothing. I wouldn't even know how to get that,
Well,
and
you
I'm
have a
not sure if I
passport.
would qualify. I don't have a passport. I've
You have a
never filed
passport.
for any of
Can't,
that. That's what I
can't you
meant
go
to.
to Mexico on a driver's license? Shit.
I've been to Mexico on a driver's license, but I've heard that recently they were starting to require passports if you're coming back from Mexico. I've also
Vaccine
heard people
passport.
saying, they said, yeah, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about with a passport. Here's my American ID. Let me back in my country. That's what people tell them at the border,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I would go to Mexico, but as far as like flying to India, like you were talking about, that's a whole different thing. I don't know. I rode my bike to the White House and asked to talk to the president. I'm not sure what watch list I'm on and where I'm allowed to not go.
So, quick follow up to my opening monologue today from Stephen McClure, who posted this in the Producers Club chat. Democrats urge Biden to send recurring stimulus checks after $1.9 trillion relief bill. This is your universal basic income backdoor, right? And I don't I'm not against that. There are a lot of conservatives who will say like, oh well, if you give people everything that they need, they're going to be lazy. Well, they don't use that as an argument against the inheritance or against inheritance itself. Like if Republican, there's this funny contradiction among conservatives, right? They say, or they'll say that we can't have universal basic income because it'll make people lazy. It'll disincentivize work. And I would make the case against UBI without making that point at all, because it's not our job as central planners to determine whether people, what incentives people have to work or not, or to make sure that people are incentivized to work. But then the contradiction among conservatives is, well, we can't have we can't have the inheritance tax. You can't just take money from people for dying, or the death tax. You can't tax people for dying, because they have a right to give that money to their kids. They have a right to pass on their inheritance. But isn't that going to make people lazy if they can inherit all that money? Well, no, we should have that. We should have that wealth, that wealth of generations. And I'm not against people having, an inheritance and being able to live off of savings. Like we should all have that luxury. The problem is that it's being managed by government. And that UBI is they stole your inheritance and they're going to manage it for you against your will. And if you're lucky, give you a little bit of an allowance every month from it.
Yeah, it's like let's see if I can find it. Earlier it was somebody saying the here it is, Gemma Evans. I think they are giving away money because soon it will be worthless.
No,
So they're just selling it out right now and using it as a tool to get what they want, and coding it like a good thing, but they know that it's about to be worthless, so they're like, take it.
So it's an interesting possibility to consider here, Jim and Gemma, because we can't say for sure that this is kind of like anthropomorphizing the institution, right? But let's let's look at the reality in that comment, right? Because put it up on screen again. I want to get the wording right. I don't. It says they're giving it away because they know it'll be worthless soon. That's potentially very accurate, but a sort of anthropomorphic distortion of reality that I really want to flesh out. No, leave it on screen. Leave it on screen, okay? This comment: giving money away because soon it will be worthless. So if that's the case, what does this suggest? It suggests that the superclass has an understanding that the monetary racket of the US dollar is going to come to an end soon. Now, I don't know that that's true. I don't necessarily endorse that idea by itself, right? I mean, it could be that it's an engineered decline. It's going to keep going, but there is a worthless soon element with crypto coming, right? If crypto displaces fiat in the next few years as opposed to the next few decades, and you're sitting there on some kind of fiat power system or fiat powered system, you got to be aware of that. So but giving it away like this might be a couple of things, because if the point is for them to get more money of their own, right? The point is we want more money of our own when the dollar collapses. We still want to have some kind of material wealth and power. They're going to be using that money to then buy gold and silver or real estate or other material assets. As I've described it, the super class getting their last licks in with a dying system, right? But why would that lead them to give money away more? Perhaps just as a distraction, right? If the end of the U.S. dollar system is this monetary fountainous explosion, and then it all goes to nothing, well, then the people who saw it coming and were able to get those big chunks and put them into tangible assets are going to be able to, be the new rulers in the new system, but not of its Bitcoin, not of its crypto base. And so while what Gemma is saying here points to something very important, very powerful, I think right next to this idea might be a more important one, which is that those sitting on fiat currency empires are scrambling to accumulate real assets, or they should be, right? And or going to buying up crypto and or using their power to engineer whatever new monetary system is coming to work in their favor. And I think that's more importantly the bigger focus, whatever it is. If they are deliberately letting the dollar die, then you're going to see the existing superclass not just hoarding assets, but also going, well, what's the new crypto? What's the new monetary system? How do we switch over to that? And maybe real assets have to be the bridge. And the destabilizing effect is a huge equalizing effect as well. And either way, like I said, in everything I said in my opening monologue about this being a strange time for money, it's not going to be for long, because we are going to either come to, cryptocurrency as the dominant monetary reality, or we're going to just be so superfluously wealthy, all of us. I mean, even as much as we're suppressed and sort of, forced to work or tricked into staying wage slaves rather than maintaining an inheritance and accumulating, familial value. where was I going with that? Well, I don't think they're going to be able to hold on as much as we think, and I hope this just leads everybody to somewhat more conscientious economic decisions and to be thinking about the long term, because where we're going with this in terms of like superfluously wealthy, it might be that we lose. You know, it might be that we lose. The people lose to the assholes, to the super class, and that there will in the next generations be an even more obscene concentration of wealth and power. But those of us peons living around, regular lives, we're still so comfortable that we don't have to work. We don't have to. We have everything we need for food, water, clothing, energy, shelter, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what happens when that stimulus check gets big enough that you can do what I'm doing? Right? What happens when that's, and in a sense, you could say it already is, right? If you took your first $600 stimulus check and you bought Bitcoin, you'd have enough to put a down payment on 10 acres by now, right? If not buy it outright. What happens when the technology is such that, a little 2-bedroom RV trailer, brand new, out of the box, fully functional, and solar panels, and a car to drive it out to your 10 acres is covered by your stimulus check?
That'd be nice.
We're kind of getting to that point. Problem is they're subsidizing, and this is another thing in this whole wrangling over the $1.9 trillion relief bill. And I think we got this in our stack later today, that it's a child income tax credit that is prepaid, so it's not a tax credit. It's we're going to pay you to have kids. Yeah, crazy manipulation here. Anyway, we have Nicholas Wildstar coming on the show talking about California governor's debate, California Governor Newsom recall. Very exciting interview we have coming up in just a bit. Again, top comment is irrelevant today. We're going for top donation to Jim's new Smile Fund. Man, I just closed the tab and I'm like, I got to keep this one pulled up here. But yeah, this is it. A new smile for James Vaughn. Top donation. Hey, look at that. We're already up $70 just in the last few minutes. So get on it. A new smile for James Vaughn at GoFundMe.com. And since CJ is back here, let's jump into the headlines.
No, CJ would be playing it, and you're going to have to wait a moment because we lost CJ. He's not backstage no more. So his internet dropped or something. Something's happening. Yep, internet went down, he said. He just now said internet went down, and he's not backstage. I'm looking, so I will read a few comments. I had said this when you were doing the bit. Money is a means to get wealth, not the wealth itself. That's from an Akalos rap.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, just to be like the nerdy, precise economist, yeah, it's the claim to wealth that only has value because of social consent or consensus.
True that.
It's just paper. 4 ones and 0.
Well, let me say this one more last thing I'll say about the GoFundMe campaign, about my teeth and everything. Again, I really appreciate anybody that donates. I'm just blown away and speechless, and I love all of you for even letting me talk about it and you for bringing it up and talking about it. It's awesome. The last thing I wanted to say was, if anybody has any like advice for me or thoughts or research places I should start in looking in Mexico, stuff like that, let me go to my email here. Jim@thefreedomline.com is where you please send that right here. Please send any information that you think could help me on the best way to get the new teeth. If you know a cheaper way or just whatever, anything on the subject, feel free to reach out to me there. And thank you again. So we still don't have CJ back, so we're gonna have to just talk, I guess, until.
All right. Well, no, I mean we can get into the news without having it on screen. So let's just jump. We do want to get into some of the stuff that is important before we get to our guest. First, our social media block. I think we can knock this out in 10 minutes. So let's do this. Hopefully, CJ's back on in 10 minutes for our guest. But until then, let's see. Oh, now I'm frozen on StreamYard. Thank you, StreamYard. All right. Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, Twitter to launch subscription service super follows aims to double revenue by 2023. Social media company details its goals at an event for analysts first in several years. So subscription service super follows. What does that mean? Twitter plans to introduce a subscription service for content creators. Instead, it would explore tipping as it looks to double its annual revenue and accelerate user growth over the next few years. The social media company on Thursday said the subscription initiative called Super Follows will give people an opportunity to receive payments for their content. Twitter expects it to appeal to so-called influencers with large internet followings and plans to launch it this year. Twitter executives. Now, by the way, so-called influencers with large internet followings. You mean the ones that you chose by letting them through your algorithm? Oh, okay. Twitter executives didn't say when it would roll out tipping or share details on how it will work. The company also didn't disclose how much of a percentage it would take from sales for that feature or super follows. Now, I'm all for like building in, a tipping system into this platform. That's whatever that like. And I'm thinking about it for myself. If people want, but I wouldn't put any of my content behind a paywall, and I can't say that I never or wouldn't ever, because we do have some exclusive content with Patreon, but not with a service that I don't trust to not censor and shadow ban people for political reasons, as we've seen that Twitter's completely not worthy of that trust. So when it comes to this particular upgrade, it is a sad statement about corporatism that Twitter is even still in a position to say something like this, right? Because this option for Twitter really only exists in a world devoid of competition. Now, does Twitter have competition? Of course, but Gab got hacked and Parler got shut down, so it's just Twitter. Now, yeah, you got Facebook and YouTube, but in what it is, like for being the short form platform with the kind of connection follow formula that Twitter has, essentially first to market, biggest market share, and they have such a dominant brand. I mean, that Twitter hosts so much of the human conversation. I mean, Twitter represents a massive chunk of the hive mind. It has come to host so much human conversation that they can now do something like this and say, well, where are you going to go? The problem isn't that they're doing this, but the corporate world in which this exists, where you go, well, is Twitter going to do this? Well, what's the competition doing? Well, you can't answer that question because the competition has been pushed out so effectively. So if Twitter does this, if Twitter goes to this, if they keep it completely separate, like it's just an extra button, it's just an extra kind of hidden feature. If I wanted to charge people to follow me, I could turn it on and turn it off. But it's going to make things, they could do that and preserve the core functionality of Twitter, and it's not really be a threat to it. Of course, if they make it like pay for everything, then people are going to go, fuck this. We need an option. We need a blockchain based alternative. We need to go somewhere else. This isn't worthwhile. And I think if they do that, I think Twitter's going to get away with this. I think they're going to do this, over the next few years. They're going to figure out how to incorporate more than just advertising into their platform. Some of these, sort of subscription or tipping types of services. But it's going to be the beginning of the end for Twitter. If they really significantly change their core service, because the blockchain, the whole Bitcoin community is too strong at this point. Someone will step up and say, "No, we've coded something better. Screw this." So, more social media news from Politico.com. Facebook's Supreme Court to receive new powers. The Oversight Board is expected to be able to review whether content still online breaks the tech giants' community standards. Because they don't have free speech standards, they have community standards, which are their standards for censorship. But I love this, the Supreme Court in the title. Now, of course, they're not calling it that officially from what I understand here, but they're calling it Supreme Court. Is this like because we want to be government, we want to challenge government, or we just want to be our own oppressive force? The outside group, the outside group with the final say on whether Donald Trump can be reinstated on Facebook is expected to be given greater powers in the coming months to decide which content is allowed on the world's largest social network, according to Thomas Hughes, administrative director of the so-called Oversight Board. Speaking to Digital Bridge, Politico's transatlantic tech newsletter, Hughes said the board is in talks with Facebook to receive more powers to review potentially harmful material that remains on the platform, as well as to adjudicate on accounts suspended for breaching the company's community standards. Currently, the oversight board can only review content that has already been taken down from Facebook, as well as when the company refers cases involving suspended accounts to the outside body. This just reminds me of that quote from Tyrion Lannister, Game of Thrones. When you cut, should I try it in the British accent? When you cut off, no, I won't. When you cut out a man's tongue, you do not prove him a liar. You only prove that you are afraid of what he might say. And Facebook and Twitter, they all depend on corporatism. They all depend on the support of the current government. So to a certain extent, they don't want to challenge that. They don't want to serve, their legs being cut out from underneath them by the truth here, and so they will censor that. And I'll say it again, but it's very simple to say that all of the goals of social media companies' stated goals for censorship could be achieved with nothing but warnings and no censorship at all, right? You're afraid that people are going to see harmful content. Okay, well then you institute a flagging system where if one person flags a post, even as few as one person, or it's 10% maybe who will view it, flag it. Yeah, you have a system here. It's not hard to engineer this. If my friend accidentally posts a dick pic on Facebook and I'm the first one to see it, I can check. I don't want to see that. Yeah, this post is probably nudity. As opposed to I report, because here's what happens under the current system. I report his dick pic for being sexually I wouldn't do this, but some Karen might. If you see a dick pic on Facebook, you report it to the censors, they review it, and now you just put a dick pic in a giant pile of dick pics that some poor schmuck in the Philippines or some other poor country where Facebook has one of their content moderation farms has to go through this with all the pictures of violence and everything else. And now we have people, we talked about this story for years about the content moderation firms that Facebook and Twitter employ that operate outside of the United States as independent contractors, so they can say, oh no, we treat our employees well. We just make sure that our independent contractors are treated like shit and psychologically abused to the point of suicide. I'm not making this shit up, people. Look it up. If you wanted, the history of the social media moderators is horrific. So instead, I flag the dick pic and say, put a screen on this. Let's not take it down. Maybe someone wants to see this dick pic, and maybe it's just me, right? But I would flag it and say, hey, Facebook, my friend accidentally posted a dick pic. I think you should put a blur screen and sexual content warning on it. And that's then the worst that can ever happen to you is that your content gets warnings put on top of it. Nothing gets censored. But even there, if you have if you have an abuse of the flagging system, there's an easy way to balance that. And you say, well, if it has to be 10% of the people who view a post flag it as sexual, and if you see a flag on something that, like, if it's a picture of a statue of David with his dick hanging out, and someone flags that, then let the audience of that post be the ones to debate whether or not that is sexual. And the worst that ever happened is that a screen goes up to cover it. But there's something worse about all this that Facebook is actually doing that contributes to the death of thousands. I would have to guess thousands, maybe tens of thousands of young people. And I've said this, like with racism. If your friend makes a racist post and then their middle school friend who they haven't talked to for decades flags it and says, you got a racist post. Well, now my neighbor, I don't know that my neighbor's racist. You just swept that racism under the rug for your, sensibilities so you don't offend anybody. But now you're just hiding problems. Now, where does this turn into death? Well, self-harm posts. And I think about, teenage women, young girls especially, whose suicide numbers have gone way up with the proliferation of social media in ways that can be directly tracked time-wise, statistically, and tied to that. So what is a self-harm post? It's a cry for help. And Facebook says, no, you cannot use our platform to cry for help. In fact, we're going to make it look like you can use it to cry for help. I mean, isn't this worse? It would be better if Facebook from the onset said, hey, this is a safe space. Racism doesn't exist here. Self-help doesn't exist here. Cries for help don't exist here. Self-harm doesn't exist here. People who are suicidal don't exist here. If you want that, go somewhere else. But they didn't. So a young girl on Facebook tries to put out a cry for help and says something about self-harm, and that gets censored. And then her community doesn't see it, and she ends up committing suicide. Facebook knows about this. I'm not the first one to call this to their attention. So I would hope. I mean, another note. Like I'm off Facebook. I'm there. We use it as a backup. I have a presence there, but I don't engage. I make sure that to the best of my ability, my online activity does not support Facebook's business at all. And I would hope. I see people on in the freedom movement still on Facebook. Fucking hypocrites, really. Now I know someone's got some reason. We got to talk to where the people are. Well, you don't have to yell at them through a bullhorn made of shit that just spews it on everybody and actually contributes to the evils of the world in ways that you might not have even thought of. All right, our guest is backstage. Before we get to Mr. Wild, so just a couple quick stories we got to hit in this social media block from protocol.com. Apple and Google lobbyists are swarming Arizona over a bill that would reform the App Store. Yeah, and so I didn't get all the way into this and parse out the legality of it, but the problem is that Cobb's bill, this is the Arizona state rep, would allow app developers to use third-party payment systems to circumvent the 15 to 30% cut that Apple and Google take from app sales. Now, there's kind of already a way around this, and this is obviously given so many premises of, contracts and governments and enforcement and intellectual property bullshit that shouldn't exist in the first place. But of course, yes, Apple and Google are working hard to make sure to protect their rent-seeking policies that they've achieved. Now, far-right platform Gab has been hacked, including private data, according to Wired.com, the transparency group. DDO Secret says it will make the 70 gigabytes of passwords, private posts, and more available to researchers, journalists, and social scientists. Yep. That's okay. Hack anything. I got to get into these stories more because these are really important. But again, just links in the notes. One more story. Actually, two about Gab here, and then one last one for our blog. And this is from news.gab.com. Their response: Gab does not negotiate with criminal demons. Now, that's a interesting metaphoric use of language, but okay. Over the weekend, we received word that we've been subject to a hack that will be published by a third-party nonprofit organization, Distributed Denial of Secrets, which the Department of Homeland Security has described as criminal hackers. DDS announced that it would only be making the leak available to journalists and researchers for ethical reasons. At the same time, an individual who claimed to be the hacker sent us a ransom demand for nearly $500,000 in Bitcoin. We immediately notified federal law enforcement. This ransom demand would be worthless if DDS did what it had done with other hacks in the past, i.e. publishing them in full as it did with leaks from another free speech website, Parler, earlier in the month. DDS made an exception in our case, which we cannot currently explain. This exception conveniently assisted a third party who, at the same time as DDS was preparing to leak our documents, secretly sent us email threats and ransom demands. So definitely more to the story, but finally, good news to wrap up our social media block. SoundCloud to be first music app with fan-powered artist payments. Now, why is this good news? Corporate manipulation. It's a little bit more of a direct compensation for artists for connecting with their fans. And while like on Twitter, still might be a good thing for the same reason, right? But happening in this bigger corporate rubric, I'm not sure that it's good news by itself, but it points to sort of the inevitability of the progress of technology and decentralization, and that pretty soon here, the intellectual property concept in the music industry is going to be irrelevant, and that's a really good thing, because it's been one of the underpinnings that has killed music in America. Remember, every song used to be a folk song. You could rewrite it, play it. You don't have to pay off any record company or anybody else in the process. But we've come a long way down since the institution of the illegal constitution that we live under today in America, which really gave birth to the modern intellectual property racket as we know it. All right, without further ado, our guest is backstage and ready. Let's see. Okay, so I'm sorry for the delay, Nick. So CJ and Jim are working out things backstage. But it looks like we are ready to bring our guest up. Is that correct? So let's get him on stage here, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, happy to bring you Nick Wildstar, running for governor of California against who's that creepy guy behind you on the screen, Nick? God damn. Have we not seen enough of Gavin Newsom over the last year? You have to bring him in. I thought the recall meant we were getting rid of him. All right, Nick, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good morning, brother, man. I appreciate you for having me on, Adam. Yeah, this American Psycho right here is taking over California,
yeah. No, oh, man. Oh, wow. Ooh. You chose very well with that photograph. Absolutely. No, and he does. Not like I don't want to. I'll say something that you are probably not allowed to say as someone running against him trying to be political, right? But yeah, the movie American Psycho, and then you look at Gavin Newsom. It's not just the Bates like facial resemblance. It's so much deeper than that. You look at Gavin Newsom. The hair, the look, the suits, the posture, the attitude. Being what the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, yep. And you go, how many people does this guy have buried in his basement or hacked up in his fridge? Like seriously, there's something like you could have gone and been a serial killer, but instead became an evil, corrupt governor of California.
Well, I guess in that position, he's able to still play it devil's advocate, and make it seem like he's a people person, or really he could give a damn about us little people. You know what I mean?
Well, so. Exactly. See, we don't even have to like. I think it's fun to make fun of Donald Trump for having painted on orange skin and natural color eyelids, and it's fun to make fun of Gavin Newsom for looking like this weird polished psychopath. But let's be real about the policies. We wouldn't be making fun of them for this, because we're not trying to make fun of people for their appearances. It's only ironic it's only funny with Trump because he's trying so hard to look good. It's only relevant with Newsom because he actually acts that way. Because if you took Bates and the American Psycho and made him governor of California, right, policies would be about the same, right? Like you said. So when we say it doesn't care about the little people, why don't you give us the background? Like what has gotten Gavin Newsom, California's favorite son, to the point of being recalled as governor?
Well, him acting as if he's better than everyone else, especially his constituency. I mean, he was caught eating indoors at a fancy restaurant called French Laundry, which is basically this 5-star restaurant where it's like $200-300 a plate for a damn.
Yeah, by the way, just about that story, that was national. I mean, there's so much more shit that Californians know about the details of his policy, but for the rest of the country, a 5-star French restaurant called French Laundry, like they might as well have called the restaurant, yeah, pew pew, we fucking hate right. You. Like is that? Can they name restaurants that? I don't know. I'm trying to think of some like better French frog demeaning surrender monk cheese. The cheese eating surrender monkeys think we're better than you. Restaurant, bistro.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it's a place where you wouldn't think any person would eat just based off of the name, French Laundry. But apparently, this is a place where ritzy rich people like Gavin Newsom go, you know, and the mayor of what is it, San Francisco, Mayor London Breed. She was caught there as well, actually the next damn day. But he was caught eating indoors in a county where there were lockdowns. So he imposed a stay-in-place order throughout the entire state. In this county in particular, they weren't able to have any other restaurants have indoor dining. But this
sorry, man. There's just so many. This is so California. I can't stop interrupting to make dumb jokes. Okay, Press Laundry. It's like a reverse snobbery name, and I didn't know that this was like a thing for other politicians. But it just occurred to me, this is the equivalent of naming a strip club The Office. So you can tell your wife, oh, yes, I'm at The Office.
Exactly, yeah. Well, like I said, it's a place for fancy folk like him. The layman, you know, the commoner definitely hasn't ever eaten there. I know I haven't, and most people that I've spoken to. But he was eating indoors, not socially distancing, not wearing a mask, but yet finding other restaurants and even going as far as to shut them down for doing the exact same thing. So it's just the more hypocritical do as I say, not as I do type of attitude. And he even did a press conference saying, well, you know, I got to practice what I preach more. Well, you think? You know?
Yeah.
And
practice not being governor for a while.
Yeah, so it's just that attitude, and when it comes to him, you know, and his policies, that's where it's come to play out even more so. I mean, with the coronavirus and what it's you know, its effect that it's had on people's lives with these lockdowns have devastated them. They've lost their livelihood, you know, being able to provide for themselves since their jobs have been deemed non-essential. A lot of people have children, and because their kids aren't able to go to school, they have to scramble for, you know, childcare so they can go out and earn a living, you know, and provide for their families. But it's been difficult for them, and they haven't received any assistance at all. Many people didn't qualify for any emergency aid, and the EDD here has even been backed up so much to where millions of people have yet to receive actually eligible qualified claims. So, but Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, he has a winery called Punkback Winery that received millions of dollars in loans, aid that was meant to go towards helping small businesses. They're triple P loans, that were passed by the Trump administration. So Newsom accepted that money, and his own winery decided to take, I believe over $4 million of that money. So it's just awful that, again, when it comes to the policies and the attitudes of the politicians in the state of California, that they pretty much become the epitome of corruption. And he's definitely become the face of that in the state.
Now, I want to get back to the bigger policy on COVID and shutdowns and the economics of this, of course, but I have to mention the wildfires that California experienced earlier, or I guess late last year. And I mean, a lot of different challenges and conspiracy theories and how they started and what, but then we saw Governor Newsom standing out there, in front of all the charred remains and a burnt out car, in this very state. You zoom back and you go, wait a second, he's not even where he says he is.
Right.
But with the fires, was there something around that policy that has contributed to the disdain for Newsom?
Well, yes. I mean, when it comes to land clearing in particular in our forests, the Democrats have imposed certain restrictions on businesses, especially on, federally owned land, to not allow we, the people, to go in there and actually clear those forests. I mean, you have a lot of indigenous people, and that's actually how they were able to maintain this state and for so long, is with those practices. And they would do the clean burns, go in there and cleanly burn any dead wood, And you also have loggers that would go in there and, clear the forest of any dead trees and then turn that wood into wood chips or sawdust or any other product that they can turn into a way to make money. That's what they really don't want. We, the people, to be able to make money and prosper from our own resources. And that's why once I'm elected governor, of course, I will be reinstating those type of practices and eliminating those types of policies, but also create an opportunity for the people of California to start benefiting from those resources. I mean, I did a debate last night and I was talking about how Nestle siphons off hundreds of thousands of gallons of water here in the state of California, bottles it up, and then sells it right back to us. It makes no sense at all.
All right, now the debate last night. Hold on, I want to. There are a couple of things I just kind of want to cover in sequence here for people who aren't up on California politics and why this is relevant right now. Because most states don't have as vibrant a citizen initiative process as California. It's one of the nice illusions that your corrupt superclass gives you there, that your vote matters,
Right.
But specifically with the recall process, this has happened once before with Governor Gray Davis.
Yes.
And that's what gave us President Schwarzenegger, or excuse me, soon to be president of California Independent Schwarzenegger, Governor Schwarzenegger, the governor. So where are we in this? What is this process? For non-Californians who have no idea what the California gubernatorial recall process is, what is the process and where are we in the process right now? And how is it that, and by the way, it was Marcus Ruiz Evans, chair of Yes California, hosting this debate, pushing for an independent California. Also, I guess a follow-up question would have to be, what's your take on California independence and all that? But first, for the non-Californians, what's this process we're talking about?
Well, we, the people of California, retain the right to recall a governor. So, of course, every politician has their term limit. Senators 2 years, mayors, governors 4 years, executive officers. So during that term, if you don't like what they're doing in the California Constitution, you can recall them, get them out of office right now. And that's what we have initiated here in the state. Millions of people have signed a petition, over 1.8 million people so far, when we only need 1.5 million to have that recall petition to be successful. So now that we've gathered enough signatures to make that happen, we're going to be having a special election here in the next few months to where everyone in the state will then be able to vote on if they want to recall Newsom, get his ass out of office. So is it a vote first on whether to keep Newsom, or do you go straight to just picking a new governor if enough signatures are collected? It's a 1-2 punch. So on the ballot, people will be able to vote yes or no. Would you like to recall Newsom? If you do vote yes, you would like to, they ask you, who would you like to replace him with? And then that's where they'll get the opportunity to vote for me. Or if you vote no, they may ask, well, if in the event he does get recalled, who would you vote for? And then again, you could choose me. So the first vote, of course, determines on who the winner of that recall election would be. But the new governor would assume office immediately and would fulfill that term and until it's filled. So that would be until January 2023. So for the next year and a half, let's say, they would get to enjoy Wild Star for governor and see what I could do to turn the state around. Hopefully that'll convince them enough of why I'm fit to serve as governor, and they'll reelect me in the 2022 gubernatorial election.
Now, Nick, I want you to know that you have my support in doing this. You have my support in running to win, absolutely. But realistically, I mean, and I think you do have a chance at winning, because this is one of the, this is I mean, I want to demean this process as a libertarian and say, oh, it's just them giving you the illusion. I mean, we got Schwarzenegger, and then what did Schwarzenegger do? Did the state get all better because we fixed the problems with Gray Davis and we got a celebrity Republican governor for California? No, obviously not. what you represent as a threat to the system, fundamentally, as a threat to the corruption of the system, is so much more significant than anybody else who would be running to replace Newsom from, from the old parties. That the odds of them letting you even have a chance, really, in this are pretty low. So I want to say that, like, this is, hey, if you don't like the flavor of our leader, we'll let you have this dramatic process and choose a new flavor of leader. But the corruption of the system continues. It's not like all of a sudden, all of Newsom's friends will be out of office and corruption won't be a thing in California, even if you were to win. But if you don't win this election, what would you say the benefit of the recall is if we just get another duopoly asshole, who's just a better flavor politician than Newsom? Could this just be like Schwarzenegger, where Californians are distracted going, oh, we got the governor, oh, we got the governor, we had a porn star, and the governor beat the porn star, and then that's all California politics is about for 4 years while the corruption continues?
I know, exactly. Yeah, we definitely got to take advantage of the moment here, because a lot of voters do have stars in their eyes. And in the state of California, Hollywood rules everything, money and power. So sadly, with these elections, they're glamorized and made a spectacle of. Tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars end up getting wasted on these elections, getting flushed down the drain, instead of actually helping the people that these politicians claim to want to help. So it's sad to see that happen. And I hope that people pay attention to that, start focusing on really what these people represent. And if they are true to form of character of who they say they are. But it would be awful if we were to flush the opportunity and elect somebody that's, like you said, more of the same flavor, or a different side of the coin for that matter. But it also is the opportunity for we, the people of California, to instill a real leader, someone that's really going to be a representative of our values and our desires and what we want to see for the state, so we can actually claim independence and start acting like it. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, but we're also a donor state. We loan more money to the federal government than we borrow from them. So that trend definitely needs to come to an end. I believe I'm the only one dedicated to that cause, to where I will stay dedicated and pledge allegiance to the special interests of the people, not these banking, big banks and big pharma and unions and other organizations that would rather see the state end up benefiting them, as they have, the cronyism that has ruled the state. So you can see the Republican Party pretty much grooming a few candidates to do exactly that. You had a billionaire, Chamath Palihapitiya, a guy from Tesla, used to be with Google or whatever. He actually dipped in and dipped out of the race quick. So you may see that happen over the next few months, where you'll have more and more people fall out of the woodworks and say they want to be governor of California. But what work have they put in to make that, to show that they want to be a community leader? I have been exactly that. I've been involved in community activism for over a decade, and you can Google me and find that out. And of course, with me fighting the system, I'm definitely proof of that. Right now, I'm actually battling the courts for videotaping in court. I was found guilty for contempt of court, simply for exercising my First Amendment right, freedom of press and citizen journalism. So it's sad to see our government trump and stump all over our rights. But when do we, the people, stand up to hold them accountable? We have to do something. And this is the first step. Second step is getting somebody like me in there, to make sure that we're holding our government officials accountable.
Now, you have a rally coming up this weekend, I believe, or next, about this legal situation you're facing, potentially doing 6 months for recording in the courtroom. We're going to come back to that. I want to give you a chance to end on that and make sure that people know what you're working on outside of politics, because you back up everything you're saying with your activism, and this is a great example of civil disobedience to hold courts accountable. But before we get to that, I want to go back to Newsom and the bigger policies, because it's not, you talk about the hypocrisy and the French Laundry, but we've dealt with hypocritical politicians for a long time. Tone deaf, insensitive elitists are nothing new in American politics, right? So there's something else here that has really got to be motivating the recall effort, right? If everybody's lives were going well in California, and we've got he's a hypocrite, but he makes our lives great, so we'll put up with him. That's not the case. How is it that people in California are suffering specifically? I mean, if you give us some of the metrics, your fifth largest economy in the world, if it wasn't part of the United States, what's the unemployment like? What's the business shutdown like? What is the experience like for average Californians under Newsom's COVID policies? And how would that be different with you?
Well, the one thing about the numbers is we really don't know. They've been manipulated, excuse me, and they haven't been fully tallied in a way to where they're reliable. And there's been audits so far to where that's been discovered, that the information.
You mean even things like business shutdowns and unemployment, like they're fucking with those numbers too?
Exactly, yes. So the belief,
there's got to be some reasonable estimates, though, like what, even if the government is undercounting unemployment. And yeah, I don't doubt it at all, because California also big gig economy state, but big on the record gig economy, and a lot of those gigs just don't exist anymore. So we don't have to count those people as unemployed, because technically they weren't employed to begin with. It's stuff like that.
Yes, well, that's exactly the point with the gig economy and the devastation of his policies. He signed a bill called AB 5 here in California, and this was before the lockdown. So it prevents people in the state from claiming the status as an independent contractor. So the good intention behind this, the Democratic legislators say, is because they want to make sure that each employee has medical coverage. So to force employers to provide, medical benefits, health insurance to their employees, they passed this bill. So everyone who worked as an independent contractor, filed a 1099, now in the state won't be able to. If you do, you'll be fined. So truckers, painters, whether it be a house or, independently, HVAC contractors, nannies. My wife is a nanny. Everybody has been devastated by this. In particular, you had rideshare drivers for Uber and Lyft out here pressure the state to pass Prop 22, which basically provided a loophole for them, but everybody else is still out of work, So it's sad to see how money pretty much equates to power. And we saw that with the lobbying power of Uber and Lyft to again get that Prop 22 exempt for rideshare drivers. But again, with what's happening in our state, if we want to get people back to work, we definitely need to be changing those types of policies. So once I get elected, I'll definitely be nullifying that AB 5 bill, since it was not voted into law by the people of California. It was a bill that was passed by legislators. So this again was passed into law before the lockdown. So millions of people lost their job before the coronavirus pandemic happened. And that's what I'm saying about the numbers is between, the estimations of the people that were out of work before that, and now it's looking as if it's tens of millions of people. And we have about 40 million people here in California. So that would be about 25% of the population here.
God damn. Well, it's a good thing you have a pretty well-established welfare system in California. None of the people are starving on the streets, I hope. but no one's going to be happy with that.
I'm not happy. Yeah, he just passed the stimulus bill here in the state where it's nearly $8 billion of taxpayers' money that's going to be spent on giving everybody $600 checks. And $600 checks in California is laughable, okay? People's rent at a studio apartment is about $1,400 on average, depending on where you live. So $600 is going to go, up in the smoke instantly. But again, taxpayers
the average Californian spends more than $600 every weekend at strip clubs. This is not.
Well, maybe not me, but I know $600 won't last long after food.
Well, I don't know. This is like I don't know why I made this. This is two jokes in one interview about strip clubs, and like I'm thinking now, I'm trying to think of more excuses. Like, no, honey, I have not spent a dime of our money at the strip club. No, I just used that $600 of government money.
Right, yeah, you better buy some GameStop stock or something like that. That seems to be
okay.
To benefit from that chunk of change.
All right, so Nick, I want to ask you a sort of harder policy question then. You're governor, beginning of last year, COVID hits. What do you do?
Well, I would focus more so on the amount of people that have died, unfortunately. To me, casualties would be the best way to determine if drastic measures should be taken, such as imposing a stay-in-place order, which is really just a recommendation. The government can't force you to do anything you don't want to do. So they don't have the right, the legal right, or the authority, according to the Constitution, to force people to stay indoors in their own homes. If you want to go outside and face the risk of dying and catching whatever the case may be, whatever virus, even if it's the flu, which existed before the coronavirus, you face that risk. So we, the people, always have the right to live our lives. And, if we want to put our lives at risk to do exactly that, then so be it. And so you can't do that at the threat of a gun. And that's what I would not do as governor, is be forcing people through armed people such as these people, to go around telling businesses that they're unable to open, or that people can't be in parks and play with their children, or even feed the homeless that seems to be still alive, despite this pandemic being called, something serious. They're not dropping like flies. They're all still alive, but they're definitely not receiving any assistance to get off the street. So if any such of a threat were to come along where it was serious, I would focus on casualties. Again, make the recommendation of a stay-in-place order and focus more so on data from scientists all over the spectrum, not just ones that agree with the status quo narrative, but to hear everyone out and to provide the people of California with more options, not just the vaccine. We shouldn't be having that, shoved down our throats when there's other ways of treatment out there. I just learned about an inhaler that was invented where out in Israel, where, you just use an inhaler and that fights it because it's a respiratory supposed infection. So, you have hydroxychloroquine or whatever Trump is talking about.
Yeah.
You got other.
Well, I know you're not a Trump supporter if you don't know how to pronounce hydroxychloroquine.
Nope, I do not give a damn. But to me, the best thing, of course, is changing your diet, being a healthy person. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of people with pre-existing health conditions have died from coronavirus. And that's actually been discovered by WHO, that pretty much 98% of the people that have died from coronavirus had one pre-existing condition. So we need to be healthier people. And we, of course, need to get away from obesity. I think that's actually a problem. because you have foods out there that people divulge in, knowing it's unhealthy for them.
Wait a second, Nick. Are you trying to tell me that Michelle Obama's Let's Move didn't fix the obesity problem in America? We had her in office for 8 years with this government program. We didn't fix. All right, no, I want to go back to like the two critical things of your statement. And I know people in our audience might be kind of disappointed with, well, shit, he's still got to manage the government of California through all of this and the statism of that. But two things. One is the just honest look at the death counts and separating died from versus died with. And
Right.
that's so important in just putting this thing in perspective and sort of letting the rest of the debate fall by the wayside. All of the what about this? What about, you know what? Let the market figure that out, because your second point is really challenges a fundamental premise of government. That's like a thread that they're not willing to let you pull because the sweater falls apart, which is that you have the right as a human being to determine your own level of risk in life.
Exactly.
No one else gets to do that for you. It doesn't matter if it's raining bloody frogs covered in AIDS-infected needles.
Right.
You get to decide whether you leave the house or not some bureaucrat. And that is what that means. Like you might think, well, Nick is saying he'd still do the same policy. He would just tweaking that one little thing.
Yes.
And right now, and I want to point this out for our audience all over the world, that legally most of the mandates are not enforceable.
Right.
The actual enforcement of them is technically illegal. And I make this point just with one simple aspect of that, in that they all have medical exemptions. None of these in the United States, I have yet to see any mandate that didn't have to include, well, yes, if you have a pre-existing medical condition that is aggravated by wearing a mask, you get to decide, language, right? You get to decide whether that is worse than wearing a mask for you, or whether wearing a mask is worse for you, or the threat of COVID is worse for you.
Exactly.
And that individual decision still remains with most of us, but there is that threat of coercion being applied that is in a lot of this language. And when it comes to businesses being forcibly shut down, the coercion is very, very clear. So what Nick is saying is that he would take that coercive element out of everything with COVID. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's mainly the problem here in the state. And that's why Newsom has been sued, dozens of lawsuits, is because that language has changed. I mean, this is a legal agreement between us and the government by way of the Constitution, the United States Constitution and the California State Constitution. So if he happens to violate that in any way, shape, and form, which he has, and it's actually been proven in court, a California judge actually upheld that Governor Gavin Newsom acted outside of his constitutional powers, and he was sued in court. So there has been one successful lawsuit, and it was mainly over his change of policy regarding mail-in ballots to force everyone in the state to have to use a mail-in ballot. You can't do that. People need to have every way to vote, whether it be online voting, which still hasn't been provided as an option. And what I would do as governor is create blockchain voting, give us a better opportunity, a more up-to-date way to accurately,
online with legit accountability. All right,
exactly.
So Nick, I want to
phone, man.
Yeah, like when you're California, you can't figure this shit out. But one other question here then, strategy-wise for your gubernatorial race, you are walking into a recall situation, very volatile, which means for a libertarian Republican, I mean, you are technically running as a Republican, but very open about your libertarian affiliations and principles.
Yeah.
what's your strategy to break through the noise in this quick? It's not a normal time, a normal election cycle of 2 years. You see it coming, and you get to plan and do things. What are the dates for this? What's the timeline, and what's your strategy to break through the noise?
Well, it's looking as if the special election will happen sometime late summer. I would say August, September. They may even try to push it out as late as they can, October, November. So it'll happen before the end of the year, that's for certain. So my goal is to just do as I always have done, and that's to hit the ground running, pound the pavement. And I believe I have that as an advantage over the rest of the candidates, is because I've actually been involved in petitioning to collect signatures to recall Gavin Newsom as a volunteer. So I've spoken with thousands of people face to face, giving them my card.
I gotta say that's great for you to be able to look at the other candidates and be like, hey, are you just coming in to collect on our work? Because where the fuck were you when we were actually making this happen?
Right, precisely. And that's what I want to prove to the people of California, is we shouldn't let this election be stolen away from us when it's our opportunity, we the people's opportunity to reclaim our power in government. And with a new governor that's going to make sure that our desires, what we really want to have done to turn the state around, in these lockdowns immediately, open schools, open businesses, open parks, in these taxes. People could use a reprieve. I want to eliminate taxes for the next 2 years while I'm in office, so they can enjoy the benefits of keeping your own money in your own pocket. So I, again, have gained the advantage over, meeting tons of people, thousands of people in the state of California. And then with me being a 2018 Libertarian candidate for governor, having already gained a reputation and notoriety through that election, has gained me also an advantage as well. So I believe if and when the people of California start paying attention to the candidates that are running against Newsom, I'll stand out like a sore thumb with my decade-long activism rap sheet, as well as what I'm currently going through to actually battle the system. I'm following through on action, on the words that I proposed to the people of California. So I've been involved with so many different organizations, Black Lives Matter, Reopen California organizations, Yes California for the Cal exit. So that's gained me favor and attention with them. And really, in order for anybody to topple the Democratic regime, since Newsom is their golden boy, they're going to be, pouring all of the money into him and his campaign. So the only opportunity to unseat him is going to come from another party. People are stuck in this two-party mindset where they must vote red or blue. They're stuck in that duopoly because they feel like if they vote for a third-party candidate, they're throwing their vote away. I've heard it so many times. So I'm choosing to take the Ron Paul route, stand for libertarian values, and promote the libertarian platform itself as a Republican. So it'll give me a larger platform to be heard by more people. And so far, it's working. So I want to just continue working that angle as much as possible and prove to the people of California that I'm a different type of politician altogether. I'm not really about the labeling of a Republican or a Democrat, but more so about the principles of liberty and freedom and justice for all. And that should matter the most. Policies over parties and people over party. And in order for anybody to, again, unseat Gavin Newsom, they got to be able to play on both sides. You got to attract liberals and conservatives, independents, as well as, people on the two-party spectrum. So I'm the candidate that can do that. I'm the only one that can. And so far, as I said, it's been working for me, and hopefully with more attention, that'll get me elected as the next governor of California.
Beautiful. But you didn't mention the one other ace you got in the hole here with your civil disobedience in your court case, because this is a beautiful,
Exactly.
righteous example of civil disobedience that if you were not running for governor right now, would be some guy recording in a courtroom getting in trouble. Now it's California gubernatorial candidate faces charges for trying to hold judge accountable.
Exactly. And I was a law-abiding citizen. You know, California law says that we, the people, have the right to record our elected, or not really elected officials, but any state office.
Dude, how many times have you been arrested or been to court for as the defendant? You're not supposed to admit that in this interview.
Times count, man. I mean,
but even if you've never been the defendant, I've been the defendant most of the time. I've been in a courtroom in the United States, and it's been at least a few dozen times. That's a lot more than that. But every time, like the lack of recording rights,
exactly,
absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah. Not to mention,
absolutely, we have secret courts in America. Secret courts is the standard in America. There are a few jurisdictions, and there are a few instances where judges will make exceptions and allow for coverage for the public interest or what have you. But by and large, you go to court in the United States, they get to operate in secret. Exactly. And in California, it's no different. Holy shit! Of all the things that are just like, really, America, we put up with this. Right. So give us the story, at least maybe not to the beginning, but to the point of explaining you recording and getting in trouble for it.
Absolutely. Well, in September of 2018, I had two court appearances for traffic citations, which I appeared in court for. And each time I did, I was recording everything using my cell phone. The judge in both cases dismissed the traffic citations, but asked me to pay a civil assessment, basically a fee. They still wanted me to pay a fine for the crime of $300. So they were trying to extort me, and I let them know, I'm not going to pay you, pretty much. But I was demanded to put my cell phone away and stop recording, which I didn't do. So I let them.
Hold on a second, just to clarify, were you being allowed to record up to that point?
Yes and no. The judges pretty much were allowing me because I was standing there with my cell phone. I mean, I'm obviously recording, but the bailiffs in both cases were the ones that initiated, the force towards me to stop me from recording physically. But again, when I let them know, hey, I'm exercising my First Amendment right to freedom of press. This is citizen journalism, and my Sixth Amendment right to a fair and public trial. This is all should be on the record. Traffic citation courts in California are not on the record. There is no court recorder. There is no stenographer.
Not even that.
Wow. They think it's like on TV, like a little lady is sitting there typing every word. No, they have digital devices recording, and then you afterwards, like Adam said, you ask for the record and they don't even have one, So, and that's what happened. I recorded those two cases in September. I got picked up on the traffic, driving while black. And I found out damn near a year later that I had warrants for contempt of court for these court appearances. So it was almost over the statute of limitations, but I put the videos on YouTube and they went viral. So they got butthurt and wanted to make an example out of me. So they filed contempt of court charges almost a year later. And I went to court in December 2019 to speak on these charges. Now, when I did not do the cell phone bit. I was instead wearing spy glasses. Okay. So, I recorded the entire thing. They didn't know that I was recording. They assumed I was and started to harass me over that. Put that video on YouTube. So check it out, you guys. But the language in the video, check it out. Because each other video, when I was charged for contempt of court, it was maybe 5 minutes in court. And the prosecutor during my trial wanted to say I was just holding up court, dragging things out, holding up the process, causing a disturbance for 5 fucking minutes. The third video, I was in court for almost 50 minutes, and actually longer, because that's an edited down version. And listen to what I'm saying to the judge. That's why I was held in contempt of court, because it happened exactly there in that video. I was arrested right there on the spot for talking to the judge in that manner. So basically, I had a trial recently where a jury of my peers, which was not, because it was 12 white people in Orange County, where, you know, the majority or the population of black people is less than 2%. So the majority of people, you know, don't look like me. And I live in Fresno now, 4 hours away. I had to bring my family, out-of-pocket expenses to pay for hotel and food and all of that shit, travel just to get down there and deal with this trial during my 9th wedding anniversary with my wife, of all things. But I had this trial, was found unanimously guilty on all 6 counts of contempt of court, or whatever the case may be. And again, the prosecutor wanted to pound it in about how I was abusing the law. If we are a nation of laws, then we should be abiding by those laws. And I brought up while I was giving my testimony about how there is California law 148G, PC 148G, which allows, you know, people to record public officials in a public capacity in a public place. That's exactly what I did, you know. And the judge, when my attorney brought this up during her closing statement, she was objected to by the prosecutor, and the judge sustained it. So they completely obstructed justice by telling the jury the law isn't what you think it is, or actually what it is. It's what we tell you it is. So if we tell you don't record in court and you record in court, even though the law says you can, don't do what we tell you to, and that's a violation. So contempt of court, each charge carries a maximum of a year. So if the prosecutor has their way, they could push for 6 years. And, you know, with California time and a half, that would be 3 years. I'm not trying to spend 3 years in jail simply for exercising my rights. So I'm making this a call to action for anybody that's truly wants criminal justice reform. You really want to reform the criminal justice system? This is your perfect opportunity, because it doesn't involve anybody dying. It simply involves somebody standing up for their rights against the people that are supposed to uphold those rights and respect those rights and took an oath, you know, to protect those rights. We, the people, don't swear on the Bible to uphold the United States Constitution.
Just to address this, like, you know, philosophically, there are people who might object to say, well, you're, you know, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Even if that's the case,
what that means.
Well, that this whole legal system isn't going to last that much longer. But the thing is, it's going to last long enough to ruin a lot of fucking lives.
Exactly.
And one of the ways that it does that is, you know, we can talk about the system itself being racist, but it comes down to individuals making racist decisions. And with scrutiny, people are less likely to do shitty things like that, or even any kind of discriminatory or victimless crime enforcement. If you made every courtroom in America live streamed online, I guarantee you there would be a lot less bullshit. There would be a lot less pain.
That's the slap in the face about all of this is now, because of this lockdown shit, you can go online. They locked my damn trial, man. I mean,
well, not the trials. The trials are they're still very much you're right. It's ironic to point out that so much they have proven that there's no technical reason for them not to have absolute transparency and full live stream of everything. But even now with COVID, you know, it's still not like it's not real transparency. It's bullshit. But Nick, to what you're doing here, I don't think like government got less vicious with COVID transparency, right? In courts. But you know, by the way, I saw you in that video, man. I miss you with dreads. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm not black, but my my hair is Jew froey enough. If I wanted to dreadlock it, I could, and I'm growing it out. So watch out. I might be displacing you as the Libertarian Party's favorite token dreadlocked candidate. But that being said, obviously the timing of this couldn't be better for you, really, that you did this not knowing that there was going to be a recall election at this point, and yet it's come to a great synchronicity where you get to run for governor in a recall election that's very tumultuous, inherently chaotic, and you have an ace in the hole to stand out and get people's attention as the courtroom transparency candidate. And I know that's not the be all end all of your platform.
Government transparency.
Right. Well, I hope that that you're able to leverage this to I think at least be able to break out as a top tier candidate in this race. And I would encourage everybody to help you get to this point, because while California is suddenly getting honest and getting fucking real and electing someone like Nick Wildstar might be unlikely, I think with your support, Mr. Wildstar can have an outsized impact on this race. And perhaps if he doesn't win this round, set himself up to be successful in future races. And I hope that if that happens, from what I know of Nick personally, he shares I'm trying to be nice and mean at the same time. My stubborn commitment to principle and the message and this movement, and has run for office multiple times. And since he, really took that turn into full-time activism and being a serious candidate, that he has made the commitment in his life. And I would tell people when I was running, please, even if whatever you think of this race, invest in me, because it's an investment in this message. And I would say that the same is absolutely true for Nick, that supporting him in this race and investing in his candidacy is an investment in the message and the long-term success for freedom, and specifically for California, man. I'm excited to see you toss these duopoly motherfuckers around in debates and tell them what's up, because you really are a standout in this race. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. Aside from governorwildstar.com, going there, donating, getting on your email list, etc., is there anything else people need to know to support you for this race?
Yes, please visit my website, wildstar2022.com. That's my official campaign website. So if you visit wildstar2022.com, you'll be able to find out more about my campaign platform proposals for California, as well as get involved. I'm looking for staffers. So if you want to help with social media, or, press releases, or helping me get donations as a fundraiser, then please, fill out a pledge card so you can get involved. Or if you'd like to make a contribution, just hit that donate button, because like Adam said, this is powered by you. If you want to get the message out there, then I need for people like you to get involved. I'm a true grassroots candidate. I'm not being funded by corporations or any special interest groups, or any unions or anything like that. So please get involved in my campaign. And I am fighting the system. Right now, I have a sentencing hearing coming up Friday, March 12th. So I'm putting together a rally to protest my sentencing, and I'm asking everyone to protest with me. Even if you aren't in California, visit my website, governorwildstar.com/freewildstar, or just look up the hashtag #FreeWildstar and get involved in the effort to reduce the charges against me and help me bring some true justice for someone that is facing jail time for a victimless, nonviolent crime. And it's not a crime when there is no victim. And again, I was abiding by the law. So help me stand up against this system. Help me stand up for freedom and liberty. And we definitely can make a stand together. So hashtag #FreeWildstar, governorwildstar.com /FreeWildstar. You can find out more about the protest March 12th, or you can find out about the writing campaign, where I'm asking everyone to write letters to the judge and the district attorney to, ask them to reduce the charges and express some leniency. So that's actually been spearheaded by Angela McArdle of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles. So thank you very much, Angela McArdle, for doing that.
Be on this show soon.
Yes, and I also have a GoFundMe. So I'm going to battle this out. I'm going to file an appeal if they do try to sentence me. Even if they don't, I plan on filing an appeal. And even if I got to battle that up to the Supreme Court of California or higher, I will. So that's definitely going to take, an amount of money to afford proper legal representation. So please visit my GoFundMe, gofundme.com/freewildstar. You can make a donation, please. Every little bit helps. And of course, just get involved. Right now, it's people power, and our hands are being tied by the people that, are the orchestrators of our society, that own our media, that own our politicians, that are, so there it is, Free Wild Star. That's my son, Chancellor. My wife, Crystal, back there. She's actually the one who put this together. So I'm just trying to keep my family together, man. My son, he just turned 18 months. So he's a little over a year, and I want to continue being there every day as a father, being in his life, and of course, being there for my wife. So if you want to keep this family together, give me an opportunity to continue to be an example, a model citizen by putting my life on the line for running for governor of California, then please get involved in that effort.
Well, Nick, I got to say about your immediate fight with your sentencing, I kind of hope you lose really hard, because it would be so much fun to see you run for governor from jail. And we'd have a field day with that one, man. Holy shit. He's running for governor. Let's jail him for some bullshit. That's some kind of, like, I don't know if you can swing it the wrong way for yourself. I know you don't want to do anything dishonest or manipulative like that, but shit, man, that would be global attention getting. California Republican governor goes to jail for recording in court, still running. Everybody's going to want to support that. Although I think they should want to support you just for putting yourself in the position of that being a possibility. Nick, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. The honor was all mine, Adam.
All right. We're a bit over time, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we still don't have our producer back online, but we'll do a quick skim of the news. And by the way, we've got a few more donations for the new grill for James. Check this out on GoFundMe.com. A new smile for James Vaughn. Basically, anybody who donates the top amount on any day this week is going to win membership in the Producers Club instead of top comment. So let's have this community come together and take care of Jim here. Comment Jim Freedom. In case you missed it at the beginning of the show, just real quick. Why doesn't Jim have all his teeth? 10 years ago, my friend James and his 8-year-old daughter were playing badminton with some friends. Simultaneously, the birdie landed on the ground, and James bent over to pick it up, while Jim's daughter swung her racket to try to hit it off the ground, accidentally hitting James directly in the front teeth, and immediately his 4 front teeth were cracked to the gum line and had to be removed years later, and it has caused way more problems for him instead of just being isolated to that. So we are looking into options, alternatives, ways to get this done, but to replace Jim's teeth might be as much as 20 grand. So that's our goal for this. So please chip in as much as you can. If you can't do it today, if you got to wait a little while, even just $20. I think our top donation for the day during the show today was like 60. So not that hard to be top donor this week. If you want to buy your way into the Producers Club, different option. So tomorrow, definitely going to be a headline catch-up day, since the last 2 days we've been a little bit behind. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about China's new crypto. New York cracking down on crypto. We've got updates on January 6th. Yeah, there is a murder suspect in the Ashley Babbitt case. We have stuff with Antifa. A couple things to get out of the way real quick. Donald Trump spoke at CPAC Orlando, hinted at running again in 2024 as a Republican, but only 68% of attendees agree. This is from Orlando Sentinel. I think they got the headline backwards, which should have read, miraculously, Trump's cult of personality still has 68% of CPAC, as in conservative Americans, believing that he should run for president again in 2024. Whereas we're talking about a big government liberal from New York City who is the last thing from a conservative as a Republican. Really, the headline should be Trump's successful mindfuck of all things Republican and conservative continues. And yet, Politico had this CPAC host booed for asking attendees to wear masks. Yeah, interesting debate or fight there. Quick tip from Politico.com. Biden won't release White House virtual visitor logs. Government watchdogs are urging Biden to do more to keep the American public informed, including releasing virtual visitor logs. Wait. Are they the secret visitor logs? That's the default? Yes. And I love how the story starts here. Few bars have been set lower than the one Joe Biden has had to clear when it comes to bringing transparency back to the White House. Trump has been an easy act to follow, but 5 weeks in office, Biden has fallen short of his former boss, Barack Obama, in several areas and is under pressure to do more to restore confidence in the federal government following Trump's chaotic term in the White House. Because that's what this country needs. More confidence in the federal government. Now, this Mitt Romney fall, saw this story, seen with a black eye and stitches, jokes it was from going to CPAC. Yes, it's funny that conservatives hate Mitt Romney for not being conservative enough, but then they love Donald Trump for being really anti-conservative in so many ways. Now, he's 73 years old. Most people don't think of Romney because he looked so young when he was running for president against Barack Obama. Not like so young, but he didn't look 73, obviously. So there's nothing behind this. Just like he was at home. Like, I kind of want to know, like, I read this whole story. How did he fall? Apparently not talking about that. Major breakthrough in California, a gay polyamorous throuple made history in 2017 when they became the first family in the state to list 3 parents on a birth certificate. So, and this legal battle now is 3 dads and a baby coming out as this is a book written by one of the dads. So yeah, fun story, nice progress. And you think, well, hey, if you're not gay, what does it matter? It means that the whole government marriage racket, which is really about controlling people, is going to become a lot less relevant, I would hope. A bunch more stories we're going to get to. Oh, quick, another one from the informant.news. Our friend Christopher Cantwell got 41 months. That's right. The gun-worshipping New Hampshire neo-Nazi podcaster was sentenced for trying to extort a rival. 41 months. There's so much wrong with this story aside from Christopher Cantwell's haircut. But there is, maybe we'll get to interview him again. Chris Cantwell, you might recall, as a former ANCAP and host of this show from way, way, way back in the day. But yeah, this extortion thing. In this case, no. So yeah, we'll be when Christopher Cantwell is ready to do another interview from jail. I hope we get to have him on again. Let's see, a bunch of other stuff in the news. Oh, I mentioned it from this was Kiplinger.com. House approves $3,000 child tax credit for 2021. The proposal would temporarily increase the child tax credit to $3,000 or $3,600 per child for most families, and have 50% of it paid in advance by the IRS. Yeah, like we'll come back to this when it comes to being actual policy. And then some fun stories that we definitely don't have time for today. But I do have to give you all an update very quickly before we go back to comment. Actually, let's go ahead and get Comment Jim Freedom back up here on stage for this check-in with the audience, and then our final update on my legal case from New Orleans from yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was listening for a while on that, but then I had a phone call and had to go. So I'm interested to hear in that. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I had to jump from my comment seat to my producer seat, which it's the same seat, but I had to go. Okay, now I'm a producer, and I was rushing through links, and I was going so crazy pulling up all the links just to have them ready. I had no idea which stories you were going to center out after the long thing. So that was a lot of fun for me. Just so you know, my blood's going. So
Right. Well,
long story
Nick was
short, I
scheduled
have
for an
not
hour.
been paying attention to the comments hardly at all.
Always happy to take it. Well, it doesn't matter. There's no comment contest today unless someone wants to say they chipped in for your new teeth. But definitely appreciate everybody's support there and the good stuff I saw for Nick Wildstar. But yeah, so yesterday was a big day for my New Orleans case and possibly a big day for freedom in the half dozen or so southern states for whom shall ID is a officially entrenched policy, which is their equivalent of stop and frisk. And you probably know stop and frisk is New York's policy where cops can stop and detain you and frisk you just for looking suspicious on the street without specific probable cause. It basically means cops are gods. Cops have unlimited power to stop you at any time based on whenever they feel like it. They don't have to say, well, we stopped him because we thought he was committing a crime. They can say, well, we stopped him because we felt like it. And that's really what's at the heart of my case with the shall ID issue in New Orleans, where they demanded ID. I refused to present it. And then I was arrested for interfering in a law enforcement investigation for failure to show ID. And the problem with the shall ID thing being like stop and frisk is if you give someone your ID, they've essentially got you detained. You can't walk away without your ID. Although that has happened to me. Actually, recently a cop stole my driver's license at a traffic stop, but that's a story for another day. It was actually last week. But so now I don't even have a driver's license. But why do I need permission to do something I have a right to do anyway? So in this case with New Orleans, the case was being argued before a 3-judge appellate panel yesterday afternoon by my attorney, Kearney Laughlin. And I'm a little disappointed that the bigger case wasn't argued. And that's my only disappointment here. But it's more the circumstances of the case, because what they have to point out is that at the moment that Officer Curley, the arresting officer, demanded my ID, he had already determined that no crime was being committed. And that's what makes this a fun case for challenging the shall ID law itself. And you didn't really get to hear this in the oral argument, because I would have been there and said, well, shit, if you let a cop just demand ID from anyone at any time, then they get to do this shall ID thing. And judge, you got to rule on this bigger policy because it's an affront to freedom and justice and it's un-American and due process, blah, blah. But no, they had to argue it very, very narrowly based on that particular incident. And it was funny to hear our old friend Elijah Gitzarelli, campaign manager at the time, and Robert Evans, our friend in New Orleans, who was driving the vehicle, who got a ticket for being parked illegally on the side of the road out of all of this. But when it comes to the final decision, it's now going to be a written decision that comes out later. So our attorney is very optimistic about this, that this was a false arrest. And what we have to do is prove, and this is just part of how the legal system works, is that we have to prove in this exact case that this was a false arrest because of this. And what that's going to do is change the precedent. If we win on this count, every cop in New Orleans is going to say, hey guys, you're going to get told that's a false arrest. You can't arrest somebody and demand ID for, because they were near something that you were investigating. And this would effectively end, or at least create the precedent to end stop and frisk in those southern states. Now in the other states, they might have to have their own test cases and play it out to actually get the cops to stop being dicks. But this is what we are doing, is fighting back and telling cops, really in the whole country, but specifically, legally speaking, within the state of New Orleans, with this appeal going to the state court, state panel, the cops, you can't do that. And that would be a huge check on police power. So I'm really honored that I can't say that I'm some mastermind behind all this. I was just living my life, and water stenciling on a freeway in New Orleans when the cops decided to show up, and I decided to be free and say, no, I'm not going to give you my ID. You don't have a right to see my ID. Leave me alone. And it turns out I got arrested, did 3 days in jail, released with no charges. I mean, fun story there. I resisted the whole time. I actually made them wheel me out of the jail, even when they were releasing me in a wheelchair, and dump me on the sidewalk. But yeah, I was locked up for 3 days and then no charges from this. You'd think that would be enough to justify a false arrest case. But of course, we have to let cops arrest people for real crimes and then let them go if they feel like it. You don't want to stop them from being lenient now, do you? But yeah, really fun story. And really the genius behind this is my attorney, Kearney Laughlin, who saw this happen, saw the opportunity, contacted me, said, hey, man, this is a great civil rights case. I want to pursue it for you. And he's basically done everything. I mean, all I've had to do is like review some documents and sign off on some shit. This was over 2 years ago. I remember this is January 2019. The wheels of injustice grind very slowly in America. No. The wheels of justice grind slowly. The injustices, those are the ones that grind fast. Excuse me. All right. But no, the wheels of justice turn very slowly. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, justice deferred or justice delayed is justice denied. And that's how our system works. But I would only add, as a slight addition to the wisdom of Mr. King here, excuse me, Dr. King, justice delayed is better than no justice at all. And sometimes you have to achieve that justice after a very long fight and many delays in order to ensure that the next injustice doesn't happen. So thanks to everybody who stuck around and listened to that yesterday. If you want to hear it out, we got the link in the Producers Club. I guess I'll send that to the public chat at t.me/Adam versus the Man as well. It's about an hour recording or so. Let's see, my attorney just sent me the link to the actual download today. So yeah, I don't know, 47 minutes and 51 seconds. And I might just listen to this again today. But he's pretty optimistic and thinks that it went well for him and that the judges are going to rule in our favor. So keep your fingers crossed. Say a prayer for us.
Fingers crossed, for sure. All right.
Any
well,
comments?
Yeah, there was a one I was looking for. They said something about the prosecutor, but it was funny because they called him the prostituter.
Yeah, and it's if you listen to this 48-minute hearing from yesterday, you'll see that there's it's weird to hear the prosecutors defending government power when you know that that's what it was. Yeah, twisting the narrative. Like even the fact of it, like there supposedly are no facts in dispute in this case, but twisting the narrative. Well, the cop was suspicious of this, and and it's like, well, no, actually, we have his words in writing from the police report that prove that that's not true. And yet it's not in this case. I don't know if it's. I guess it's not a prosecutor because they're not. We are the ones on the offensive in this legal situation. We are suing for false arrest, and so this is a cop attorney defending the cops, saying no, cops have this power. Cops did nothing wrong, and when you can kind of like hear that coming through, it's offensive.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. You've been trolled says defund, disband, and dissolve police unless you need a safe space. No flake. He says that often, so I thought I'd put it up there for him.
Yep.
He's a regular watcher.
Sorry, conservative, pro-police, thin blue liners. Your fear and your desire for a safe space does not justify stealing from me, calling it taxes, and using it to fund security guards for government who actually don't create a safe space for you, but rather their employers.
Yeah. This has a lot to do with our like First Amendment auditors out there. Like Christopher Cordova asked if you've ever heard of Bay Area Transparency on YouTube. He's a First Amendment. I have. That's why I pointed it out, because also
I think I've seen one video, but I'm not like familiar.
Big Nick, South Florida accountability is pretty good too. He's I like him. He's funny. But yeah, they go through that all the time. You know, the demanding ID, and I'm sure a lot of them have lawsuits going on trying to do the same thing you're doing. You know what I mean? I wonder. I wonder if there's any kind of like group class action thing that like if you know, I guess it have to be for the state, because this is state level, right? This ain't a federal thing. You're trying to change a state law.
Where state police forces and state legal precedent have so far protected police officers' right to shall ID victims or to impose a shall ID policy, yeah, it would be to change it for those states where that's in effect.
Oh, for all the states where that's in effect, that's what you're going for? Oh, okay.
Well, so right now, this case is at the level of the Louisiana state courts. And so if we win at this level, then the precedent applies to all of New Orleans. My attorney says that if we don't win at this point, he's going to petition to the Supreme Court, and it could become a national thing that would then effectively create a precedent that pushes down to all 50 states plus territories, blah blah blah, including the other states that have shall ID policy. But if we only win at the state level, it means that at least this would be replicable. Yes, it would be nice to lose and then win, and this is really fucked up way that we figure things out here, but it's really how government maintains its power and credibility more than anything. All right, well, let's get to the good news and wrap this up, because remember today, no promos. Go to GoFundMe.com and find the page. A new smile for James Vaughn. And that's how you can win membership in the Producers Club this week, by contributing there. But for good news in history, on March 2nd, we actually have some really cool stuff today. 230 years ago today, inventor Claude Chapa, probably not how you say it, Chapa, used the first optical telegraph to send a message over a long distance, slashing the time needed to transmit information by horseback. He sent the signals to his brother 10 miles away, who discerned the message through a telescope. Yes, the message was, si vous réussissez, vous serez bientôt couvert de gloire. If you succeed, you will soon bask in glory. And so it's just interesting to point out that there was this line of semaphore relay stations between Paris and Lille, a distance of 143 miles, so many years ago, where a single symbol of any message would pass through 15 stations in just 9 minutes. So using telescopes and semaphore machines, pivoting paddles to create symbols, they were able to do this. Now, of course, as soon as the telegraph was invented, all this went away. But it's a very great example of someone using existing technology to create some completely new application. I mean, they had telescopes, they had towers, they had paddles and signals and language, and yet they were still running messages back and forth by horseback. You put these other things together, boom, sending messages by horseback becomes obsolete. How else might you find ways of applying these same concepts to challenges that we face today? On this day in 1807, the U.S. Congress prohibited the importation of slaves. On this day in 1861, Russian serfdom was abolished by Alexander II. On this day in 1888, Constantinople Convention was signed, giving free maritime passage through the Suez Canal during war and peace. On this day in 1959, Miles Davis had the first recording session for his LP Kind of Blue. On this day in 1933, the movie King Kong premiered in New York. On this day in 1970, Morocco declared independence from France. That was 1956. And Rhodesia from Britain on this day in 1970. On this day in 1983, CDs and CD players first released in the US and Europe, making playing LPs easier, virtually eliminating skips and scratchy sounds. And on this day in 1992, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Moldova, San Marino, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan joined the United Nations. And finally, happy 90th birthday to Mikhail Gorbachev. Gorby, the world leader most responsible for the end of the Cold War between Russians and Americans. And with that, mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.